Welcome, everybody, to the show. This is Counterclipping show number 190 for September 16th, 2024. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. Our topic tonight is how many war games are too many war games? A question I'm sure many of us have, in fact, struggled with. And I want to explore kind of not so much finding the number, right? Because the number is going to be different for everybody, but how we come to the decision of what that number is. But we will get to that. In the meantime, we are clipping Advanced Pacific Theater of Operations from Decision Games. I left the door open. We probably will get visited here to see at some point this evening. And we are drinking Bullet Rye, bottled at a robust 45%. So, and it's okay. It's really probably better for cocktails than drinking out of a Glencairn. But hey, who wants to be picky about that? So, remember, everybody, to like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, subscribe or follow or whatever on whatever platform you're on. Big shout outs to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whose support and encouragement it would literally be impossible to keep doing this, as well as to our good friends at Noble Knight Games, the official sponsor of the Counterclipping show. And we will have some news on that topic tonight. So like and subscribe. There's a bunch of links in the video description to support the channel, but always remember that you are in fact supporting the channel by being here, and I am happy about that regardless of commitment level. So it is much appreciated. Super chats and super stickers, however, are on, and they are a great way to support the show as well as to get your comment highlighted so I don't miss it, which is something that can otherwise occur, since we are already over 100 people watching here tonight. Probably the vast majority of them on YouTube. Did I misclip that? Nope, we are good. Also, let me put the ticker up. I'll fix the rest of the branding stuff here too. Let's get rid of that and put the ticker up. In the ticker is the updated link to the Ardwulf's Lair Discord community, which is pretty consistently active nowadays. So if you want to hop in, you can just type that link out, or if you're watching this later and the link has expired, you can always email me. My email address is also in the ticker, and I will send you a personalized invite. If I didn't say, thanks to big shout out to Vince Reeve, and I don't think I did say, although it's in the ticker. Big shout out to Vince Reeve for stepping up to the warrior level, patron level. So thanks, Vince. Much appreciated. We do have some gaming news or wargaming news this evening, and we'll go through some of that in a minute. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but unlike many of Decision's other games in this period, this game does not have center nibs. The trade-off is that the counters are pretty hard to, some of the data on the counters are pretty hard to read, but fortunately it's not the important data. So let's say hello to Alan Salazar, B. Red, and Bayonet Brant from the Armchair Dragoons, Board Gaming Geezer, Chad Canady, Chet Bell, Daniel Silverthorne, Danny Seckery, Dave Poirier, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, David Imperato, David Zell, Drew Kennewell, E4 Airman from sunny Southwest Ohio, Eric Goebel, Garrison Venn, Groucho Marks, the only Marks worth listening to, James Whitmer, Jeffrey Edwards, Joe Faust from sunny Northeast Ohio, Joe Hammond, John Mogg, John C. from the sunny Philippines, Jonathan K., John Clark, Jonathan Dyer, Kyle Harris, Lee Grant, Mark McNair, Marty Sample is here, Martin 7W, not sure if that's a new Marty or not, but welcome to the show, Meandering Mike, Michael Simon, Molotov Cockatiel, Panzer Division Lair, Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, Paul Dangle, Perfidious Albion, Randy Maudlin, Royce, Sean Sullivan, Staking Limit is here. Stigler is in the house. Tailwind, Tony Mammal, Vicky, welcome back to the show. William Aarons and Wolf Dog. And I apologize to anybody that I missed. It's YouTube's fault as usual. So, let's start in with the news. I don't have like images or slides of either of these to share, but I will let you know that Flying Pig Games will have a Kickstarter starting on the 19th for a second edition of 65 Squad Battles in Vietnam. So if you're interested in Vietnam War tactical stuff, Flying Pig Games puts out a nice product, so be sure to check that. That's not going to work, so we're not doing that. The other bit of general news is that on November 2nd, this is a little soon to be given this notice, I think, so we'll probably have to bring it up again, is the War Room's 5th anniversary show, and there will be a pile of giveaways and special guests and all that jazz. That is Saturday, November 2nd, and that's over on ID Jester's channel. So, What else do we have going? Why is that up? What else do we have going on? So, as I believe I've mentioned already, this weekend, myself, Brant from the Armchair Dragoons, and the legend himself, Fucko, who I haven't seen in the chat yet, I'm sure he'll be along, will be making the sacred pilgrimage up to sunny Fitchburg, Wisconsin, to visit our good friends at Noble Knight. There will assuredly be some kind of content captured there, so stay tuned for that. Probably no live content, to make that clear. I might do a short or two, though. That's plausible. I don't necessarily trust the ability to actually upload stuff from either Noble Knight or a random hotel or whatever based on unknown internet, so that's probably not actually going to work out. Oh, excellent. Danny mentions that the new C3I will be up for order in November. Is this the standalone thing, or is this the next issue? That's the timing's about right for the next issue. Yep, I Napoleon, as predicted by me weeks ago, even before the sale, when we were talking to Ted, I Napoleon is sold out at GMT. This is not at all surprising. Best of luck on the secondary market, but I'm sure a reprint will make its way to P500 pretty quickly. The thing did sell out in like 3 months, which you gotta assume is good. These particular ASL Arnhem scenarios, to my understanding, are in fact new scenarios if you're talking about the new pack that is up for pre-order on Multiman Publishing's website. I'm not going to show the slide, but if you go to mmpgamers.com and go to the pre-order section, there's a new 4-scenario pack for the ASL tournament in the Netherlands that those folks have put together. As far as I'm aware, they're new scenarios, but don't take my word for it necessarily. Check the ASL scenario database. In that case, this isn't the worst idea I've ever heard, but somebody's going to get bashful about being on camera, and that somebody is not Brent or myself, obviously. So we'll see how that goes. I kind of doubt it, but there is ample precedent for filming extended videos in the car on the way. So I won't say it's like an 8 or 9 hour drive from here, and these guys have an extra 2 hours on top of that. So, I will not guarantee that it won't happen. I'm just not planning to do so. My Doomed Battalions also arrived. There will be an unboxing of it soon, but it's probably not going to be this week because there's other stuff in front of it, in addition to the giant pile of ass that is my editing queue at this time. So, Danny says they're new, and that's what I figured. And it's $10. So, I mean, is you're going to go wrong. Brant, thanks for the support. It's much appreciated. We'll put this in the gas tank on the way. And Brant has the best answer to the question of the evening is how many war games are enough? All of them. I like that answer. That is a fantastic answer. So thanks for the support as well as being the person to drive. So, so we're actually driving up Friday and coming home Sunday. So we'll basically have the entire day. So basically whenever Noble Knight opens on Saturday, we'll probably be there 10, 11, something like that is my intention. We have an actual, an appointment with Dan, who's the guy running the company day to day. So he is on a restricted time frame, and we very much appreciate his sitting down with us. So we will probably be there kind of right when the doors open is my guess. So I'm sure this is delightful. I wouldn't mind making the pilgrimage up to Lake Geneva at some point, but that's likely to, there would have been a rant had this required the historical module, A Bridge Too Far, that you can't touch for less than $300, at least if it's got everything in it. So, hey, anybody's going to be there, and there might be some people there that we know. So all that is good. Somebody said something about, well, this could happen. This is not impossible, but you may recall that we don't trust him with our phones anymore. If you know what I'm saying. So, we ain't filming that shit on my phone with him running the controls. That's for sure. Nah, not really. Well, so I mean, this is a weird thing that people are into, and I find it a bit just weird and without real reason. In any case, I don't think we'll ever see those. But if you do want them, somebody makes them. There's third-party counter sets out there. So go get those if you're that bent out of shape about it. In any case, Thin Red Line Games has announced their latest, which I believe to be part of the C3 or 3C series, the same series as Dogs of War, and that kind of stuff. This ought to be in the it ought to be. I don't know that it is. It ought to be in the description on Multiman's website is exactly what you need. I don't think there's a map in it. I think it's just literally literally 2 scenario cards. So I assume they're on one card. That there are some scenarios that bleed over into multiple cards, but it's 4 scenarios, so probably 2 cards. So in any case, it ought to say what you need for it board-wise in there. And if not, the scenarios might actually be in the database already. So check that. That'll tell you as well. So in any case, let's get rid of this. All right. So aside from that, I have an update on the latest campaign from Noble Knight. Now this is a weird exception update because this didn't come from Noble Knight, but this affects the Noble Knight campaign. And here it is. Vakdam Rhine, unpunched. I got it at a very reasonable price for cash out of pocket from one of the Central Ohio locals. You know who you are. So that's out of the way. So let's put up the brand new ticker here. So we need 2 more. Highway to the Right, 2nd edition is the one to have. And then NATO Division Commander. I believe last I checked. Now we'll see, because I'm going to take some stuff up to Noble Knight, so we'll see what I walk out of there with. I may have an update like literally next Monday. So we will see how that goes. But they might have a Highway to the Right too. I'm not 100% sure on that. No, NATO Division Commander is nowadays, at least at the moment, feels like the easiest of the soapboxes to get. It was not available in any other format, and it is a late entry for SPI. So we are at 60%. So thanks very much for to the folks who have used the affiliate link, which is in the video description. And as I've mentioned before, use the affiliate link, and it's completely transparent. You just click on it and then buy stuff at Noble Knight's website. And I get a kickback in the form of a few percentages of store credit, and eventually that will pile up so that I can buy something new. So, and I'm pretty sure at this point that I know what the next campaign is going to be, and it's going to be a higher ticket item, higher than any of these. Let me put it that way. None of these they're all kind of crazy, but the one that is absolutely batshit is Campaign for North Africa, and that's taken care of. So Mr. Mark Herman is here. Mark, thanks for stopping by. I'm aware that there are stated issues with Highway to the Reich. They don't seem to me to be unfixable issues, but it does require house rules or tinkering with the game. Stigler has done an entire video on that, and I recommend watching his video to kind of take that apart, that idea that Highway to the Reich is basically busted. I'm not sure if busted feels a little strong. Let me put it that way. Perhaps not quite working as intended might be a better description. But I do think you probably need some house rules. But as ever, the goal will be to get this thing on a table too. So I'm kind of planning out the entire next year of content in a very vague way here. Mr. Carl Fung is here. Carl, it's funny you should stop by, because as we segue into our topic, which is how many war games are enough. Somebody mentioned before the show actually started that they don't have any games in shrink wrap. I think I have 1 game in shrink wrap, and it is my extra copy of OCS Crimea that I bought so that I could put a complete Ostfront set together. So that's Crimea, Third Winter, which are out already, Forgotten Battles, which will be out. Seems unlikely that it'll be this year, but I guess it could happen. Time's wasting. And then Hero City, whenever that comes out, I'm going to have 1 massive set to put it all together. So other than that, Carl will know a fella named Chip Farr, who was one of the folks Dean had working on No Turning Back. And I talked to Chip a couple years ago, and he told me, hey, nothing stays in the shrink wrap. Because sometimes from the manufacturer, there will be some kind of problem. And if you wait 15 years and the thing's out of print, the manufacturer's not fixing the problem. So find out if there's a problem right away. And there's not a huge difference in the value between a shrink wrapped game and a non-shrink wrapped, but unpunched and otherwise in terrific shape game. So I think I forget, since I haven't played it. So I think the issue is, there is a sort of disorganized or suppressed status of some kind, and the buzz seems to be, Stigler seemed to feel anyway, that is overpowered. Let me put it that way. But I'm not convinced there's not ways around it. And even if there isn't, you can, find a different market garden game or put a house rule in so that it's a little less sticky. You know what I'm saying? That is what I understand. So I am unwilling to commit to that explanation at this time. Is it really all of these? Holy cow. Okay. We're actually listing. Okay, I haven't the vaguest idea what boards I have, to be completely honest. At some point, we need to do a complete inventory and reorganization of ASL. That would just in terms of the clipping alone, because a lot of it's not clipped. So just in terms of the clipping alone, that's probably going to take all year. So, Mark, I think overpowered is probably the wrong word. I think the I guess what I'm trying to say is that disorganized or whatever it's called status seems too strong. I believe it. I don't want to try and quote the rules from a game I've never played. So I've looked at the rules and I've watched Stigler's video. So at some point when we we have the thing and we can talk about it in a slightly more intelligent way, we can offer a more informed commentary on it. So in any case, yeah, as Tim Zales, for those who don't know, Stigler has a YouTube channel and he doesn't do like tons and tons and tons of content, but when he does content, it's good content. So you should check that out. He did do a whole video on explaining the issues that he sees in Highway to the Reich. So check that out. Somebody wants to send me the link to it on Facebook or something like that. I can stick it in the chat. I'm not going to derail the show by trawling YouTube for a random video. So disruption, that's the status we're talking about. And it is kind of integrated into a lot of the game. So in any case. Okay, so this bust, every Market Garden game I have seen, this breaks. If allies are just allowed to pick wherever they want to land, it doesn't even break the game, it breaks Market Garden. Because part of the challenge that the allies have is where the airborne divisions are. And if they can just pick that spot, then that's problematic. I actually saw this in action at the other game of the Devil's Cauldron and Regal's Dare a few years ago at Winterfest. Not our game. We had 2 games of that going that year. And the other table allowed the allies to pick wherever they wanted to land, and they just landed the entire 1st Airborne Division in Arnhem, and that was it. So that did not work. So, and Perfidious Albion agrees with both me and Mr. Chip Farr about removing the string, just to check it out if there's a problem. And it doesn't happen that often, but I have had it happen occasionally with misaligned counter sheets or missing counter sheets or some component or otherwise is missing or something's or whatever. So I'd rather find out. I believe Stigler's commentary does reflect the 2nd edition of the rules. So, Bean Joe Green, this is a topic I don't really want to talk about, but the performance of those units varied by unit, right? As just like every other arm of every other service did. Some of them performed extremely well. Some of them performed quite poorly. This institution was not different in this respect. It was, however, different in a number of other respects that we're not going to talk about. So, in any case, the assholes part of it is definitely accurate. However, that's definitely true. So, in any case, all right. So, how many war games is too many? Because I was going through my personal inventory again. Because that's a thing that I do, and found to my shock and dismay that I've got over 600 war games now. And in fact, that number is 610. Now, that, as a reminder, that does not count anything that is not fully standalone. So anything that's an expansion, that number does not include. That number does include magazine games. And minis and folios and things like that. But I don't have a lot of minis or folios. I do have a fair number of magazine games. But that's a lot. And as somebody else mentioned, I mean, I'm not going to get to play all those, right? So this has been on my mind for the purposes of storage space, if nothing else, right? This is overflowing back here. It doesn't look like it, but it's overflowing. And since we're now concerned about storage space, I am going to take this and not store it on the floor. So, because that was another lesson that got learned in the last year or so. We did actually have the plumbers out to fix that actual problem, but it wasn't leaking as long as that particular water was turned off. So in any case, Christopher Smith's, whew, that's a lot. I mean, I know people that have like 5,000 games, and I don't know where they put them, but, you know, I guess they got bigger basements than me, and my basement is okay. I mean, I don't have the entire basement filled with war games, though, right? I've got a workshop down here and a little sitting area out here and and some bookshelves where the books are, not the game books, the books. All that's in the basement, but I really am overflowing with war games here. So a number of things will be making their way to Noble Knight, but not like I'm not going to take like 100 games. That's not happening. So do I have any non-wargame board games? Yeah, a few, not a ton. I would estimate that number to be, if we count like family games that like the wife and the in-laws will play, there's probably 20 non-war games that are like not from war game publishers. I mean, I've got a couple of the Avalon Hill family games, for example, but those get shelved with the war games because that's the kind of box that they are. So they're in the war game list, but the number of those is actually pretty small. The vast majority of my like board games are in fact war games. So I would estimate, I can actually tell you the number of non-war games in the list is a little higher than expected. It's 25. Actually, I have 25, not what I list as non-war games, but bear in mind that there's like two tabs in the spreadsheet, one for war games and one for non-war games, and the ones that can be stored as war games are on the war games list. So it might be a little more than that, but not too many. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, 400's a lot. You're not realistically good. Even if I was to be like count things in a really narrow way, like let's say I count OCS as one thing, right? So it only fills up one line in the spreadsheet. I could do that with all the series, and I would probably lose a couple of hundred games because I have a lot of series games. But I mean, that's just sleight of hand, right? I'm just fooling myself as to how many games I got. And I'm not talking about RPGs. I've got a decent amount of RPGs too. There's a whole wall here that just eyeballing it. It's about 6 feet wide of shelves. There's 5 shelves here, and it's full of RPGs. And you've never seen it on camera, except in the Game Room Tour video. So if you want to see that, go check that out. That's a lot. Stigler has 140. Now, I have, at the same time, I have some respect and admiration for people who just play a couple of different games. Okay, I think that is great for them. I am not that kind of player or buyer, so I can't really do that. How do I count the SPI quads? I would count the SPI quads as the quad is one game. And in fact, I have. Now, if I had the games individually, I might count them individually, but I don't really have any of the quad games like that, unless you count Star Force and Outreach, which are their own whole big box games. Outreach is in a flat, actually. But so one of the things that is making its way, that is going away soon, are the Dragon magazines. I probably have 100 issues of Dragon, maybe 100, 150. I don't know. It's a lot, and they take up a lot of space. I don't need those. Back in the day when TSR released their CD-ROM of PDFs of all of the issues, I think it was up to issue 200 or something like that, or 150 maybe, whatever it was, of Dragon magazine. I bought that, and I still have that. So I don't need the physical magazines. They are neat for just to look through, and they have, if you're doing D&D anyway, they have tons of valuable information. And if you're doing something that's not like RPG but not D&D, there's still some useful information in there. But we can't count PDFs. I don't count PDFs at all. So the only physical RPG products I am buying now, though, are Traveler, and stuff from Chaosium pretty much, other than the occasional one-off, but I probably should stop doing that, to be honest. I did buy all the Dune RPG stuff from Modifius, but that's because I like it. So in any case, Joe Mentum, welcome back to the show. See, keep series games that have multiple scenarios and high replayability. Sure, absolutely. This is one of the things that has driven me to series games. Fields of Fire, I think I traded away, but Pacific War's not going anywhere. So if you don't know, so does everybody that has like 100 plus games like have a list, like a spreadsheet or a database or something like that? So I would imagine the answer is no, and only because I am an OCD weirdo. Are we actually doing that? But, ooh, nice. Yeah, this is unfortunately, I do have the issue that King of the Tabletop was in. It is a very good game. It was redone by, I believe, West End Games. I think it was West End, as a game called Kings and Things. But I had the original Dragon Magazine version and played it multiple times. It's really good. I believe I still have the issue, but the game is long gone out of it. So, and I do have the PDF of the issue. So if I really wanted to do a print and play version of it, I could certainly do a better print and play version than I did back in the 80s when I had the thing. So, or the BGG collection. That's actually a good point. I always forget about that. I use it too, but it tends to drift out of alignment with my own spreadsheet. So, Iran Tishi, 75 games, 9 on pre-order, looking to sell about 20. I think this is this sounds like a very disciplined collection to me. You do know that this sounds like you're saying you have all the games that are on BGG, right? But I track information that BGG doesn't track, like whether I've played the game or not. I guess you could do that on BGG, but I don't. It's probably easiest to just use BGG for that, since they have the capability, and you can track your wish list as well. And I absolutely do use BGG for the wish list. So lots of folks are on board with that. Game Shelf is about 250 titles from Wolf Dog. I think that's great. Half for Wargames. Hey, I wish I had. I mean, I don't really wish I had fewer games. I wish I had better storage solutions for the games I have. In particular, I wish that friggin' IKEA would get the goddamn Billy bookcases in so that I could build the office upstairs that I've been talking about since the flood happened down here. That is the only holdup, is that the stuff I need is not in stock at IKEA. And I don't know why or what the problem. I mean, I assume it's some kind of logistics problem, but it's like the Billy bookcase is their cornerstone of their entire line of bookcases, and they don't have them. I'm annoyed. So, and I'm unwilling to mail order them, which may or may not be able to do right now, but I don't trust IKEA to mail order stuff. So, yeah, lots of folks using BGG. That's not surprising at all. Christopher Smith, thanks for stopping by. We will catch you on the flip side. Yeah, see, this happens all the time. This is the reason I started spreadsheeting this shit. I used to, back when I was buying comics, this was a long time ago. This was 30-ish years ago that I stopped buying comics. I used to put the comics in a spreadsheet too. I used to put my books in a spreadsheet. Nowadays, I only have that done for the war games and, well, I guess board games in general, but non-war game board games, there's not that many of around here. And the only RPG stuff I do it for is Traveler, because I am at grave risk of buying duplicates of shit that I've already got, and that has in fact happened multiple times. So in which case my Traveler playing friends get some free gifts, but because it's generally not worth my time to like put one item on eBay or take it up to Noble Knight or whatever. So, all right. So Carl, every game he owns is logged on BGG, and from there you can download a CSV file, which you can, and I have used. Occasionally, I will have to fix whichever one is more out of alignment. So Stigler uses BGG. I think BGG is a tremendous resource, but there are things you could complain about, absolutely. But I think it is a more useful than not resource for everybody, including that does board games, including wargamers. Is it the best place for discussion about war games? It kind of depends. I mean, there are certainly good threads and good stuff available on BGG. I find the images typically very useful, not just for showing on the show, but I find, just looking at stuff, if I want to get a sense of what the thing looks like on the inside. I found a game, for example, today from about 1990 called Caesar in Gaul from Camelot Games. And I'm like, this looks interesting. I think I want this. Unfortunately, it goes for kind of high money, but in any case, it's useful for managing your collection as well. And for files, right? I mean, I'm going to dig around on Constant World looking for specific files on a specific... No, I'm probably not doing that. I'll just go to BGG. And if it ain't on BGG, then maybe I don't need it. So... Stigler, you are out OCDing me here. That is OCD indeed. So Ryan Huard was at 100 games with the non-war games and war games all together, but then the past few years, good sales, double night, substantially more. Yeah, like I said, I monitor it pretty closely. Yes, so we have a dehumidifier down here in the basement right now. It still sometimes feels a little clammy to me, but not usually. So the fact that the dehumidifier is here, and it of course drains directly into the sump pump, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'm not super duper worried about it, but it's always a fear that's in the back of your head, right? So as soon as we can get all this stuff out of here and upstairs, that'd be great. All I need is some cooperation from IKEA, or I'll come up with a different bookcase solution. Maybe I can certainly get them cheaper somewhere else, like Walmart. So. Black mold is bad news. Let me tell you, that's what destroyed my first copy of Outreach. We're trying to catch up on the chat here. Manders has 511 items on the spreadsheet, but that does include expansions and magazine games. I was at one. I'll tell you what the number is, but this number is going to be horseshit. Yeah. So the expansions number that I have is 84, but I know that is not a complete number because I have not been vigilant about populating that particular tab. So now that stuff again ought to be on BGG because I do mark it there, but I don't know. So I put up my own shelves in here too. So in the game room itself, so I can do it myself, but I would like it to look nice. After all, it isn't going to be in the basement. It needs to look like furniture, basically. And while this table's not bad, it's not, artisanal quality furniture either. So, Mark Bernier moves out games pretty regularly because space is limited. I mean, there are some people who that is their limit, right? They have this bookcase or even this shelf, and they say, this is how much space I have to store this stuff. And if I'm going to get something else has to go. There are people that are that disciplined. I am not that disciplined, as you may have noticed. So Chet Bell asked about 3D files. So no, however, relatively recently, I did upload the counter tray dividers not for the GMT trays. Those are in there too. But for the Cube for Me trays. So if those are going to be useful to you, do check out the file repository, which is linked on the Patreon. That is where I send that out. I actually have. So I actually rank it 3 ways, either unplayed, played, or I've played the series, but not that particular installment. So which is a bit of a cheat, but it's still an intriguing number. And it lets me get away with claiming that I have a relatively high ratio of games played to unplayed. But I am, to some extent, fooling myself too, right? So, Ryan Huard, limit is space. Again, for sure. I mean, like I said, I envy, without being able to copy, folks who dedicate themselves to a smaller number of games than I do. Let me put it that way. Well, no, but at least looks like professionally made furniture rather than some bullshit I can slap together. Frank Davis has about 60 square feet of shelves last month, and it's already full. ACW and World War II Western Front games and 50 square feet of Pacific is a lot. Based on Frank's recommendation, by the way, my Pacific collection is a little bit larger than it used to be. There's still some things I'd like to investigate, but based on those conversations, I've picked up a few things. I am kind of a fan of spreadsheets. That's super dorky, I realize. Royce asks, vertical versus horizontal. I'd be curious as to how other people store stuff. I would imagine lots of folks, well, not lots of folks, but I would imagine that the folks who have huge numbers of games are more likely to store them flat, meaning, flat, horizontal, as opposed to me. I like to store them vertically like this, to be honest, because they look nicer. And it is easier for me to find stuff, and it prevents box dishing, which is a huge concern, especially with these big flat boxes. This did this come from Noble Knight or eBay? I think this came from eBay. And the boxes, it's not ruinously dished, but it's a little bit dished. So this stuff I do store flat, these big flat boxes. But that's an exception. Most of my stuff is stored exactly how you see it back here behind me. But it does depend on the box, right? The flat boxes, like the Avalon Hill. I was in here. Yeah, the Avalon Hill flat boxes are up here. I've only got 5 of them. The SPI flats are up here. Looks like there's 9 of those now, which is more SPI flats than I ever wanted to have, because I consider that storage, that packaging solution a pain in the ass. So I don't know. So it's Richard Coker. Thanks for stopping by. Bookcase games are vertical, flat games are flat. Yeah, this is more or less. I've stored the flat box games vertically from time to time, but I normally don't, because I tend to lean into series games. The boxes of a given series will usually stack together without risk of bowing, as long as you don't go absolutely nuts with it. And like the Europa stuff, for example, is all stacked together, but it's all in basically the same size box. The Avalon Hill flats are all in the same size box, so I can store those flat without any risk of wrecking anything. A little harder to do that with just loose miscellaneous games where all the boxes are different sizes. So in principle, it's possible to store them on their sides, but I wouldn't recommend it. That is an excellent way to have counters everywhere. And a lot of times the flats themselves are cracked and there might be holes in them or something like that. So bad idea to store SPI flats anything but flat. So, and that's actually why, one of the reasons I don't like the SPI flats, because I have to store them that way. So do I have enough? So again, the question is, I have too much, bluntly, but that's not necessarily me saying that I'm going to go dump everything either. The fact is that I've got more than I can really deal with, and just based on storage, and I kind of like to keep the game room orderly and not have games stacked everywhere. And often there are, in fact, games stacked all over the place. There are some shelves. They're kind of built-ins, actually. They're not like really nice built-ins. There's some built-in wooden shelves here in the basement. And at one point that was just storing office supplies and stuff like that. And now about half of that has been cleared away and is storing Wargames instead. So I've seen people tape the plastic inner lids down. I don't like to do that personally, because that shit gets sticky after a while, and I don't want to deal with that. That's the last thing I need, is all the counters to be sticky too. No, thank you. Richard Coker says, after he puts counter trays in the box, he stores the game flat out of fear of the counter crossing sections. I don't feel like that's a problem with the GMT trays, as long as it isn't one of those GMT trays where the lid does unfortunately not fit. And that's definitely not a problem with the Cube for Me trays, at least the way I do them. I always have individual lids on the trays. I haven't done the trick where you can use another tray as a lid. I'm not really that comfortable with that. So yes, she did. But I believe I've talked her into dumping the magazines and some miscellaneous stuff. And I mean, she's not insensitive to the fact that I'm tight on space either. But yeah, she doesn't want me to, because she knows I'll end up rebuying a lot of stuff. But I'm not selling ASL. I'm not selling anything on the wall back there. I'm not selling anything on this shelf. So there are a couple of boxes of odds and ends and 3 or 4 boxes of old RPG magazines that I just don't need anymore. So yeah, well, we'll see how this goes. I posted a picture of the beard when it was like fully grown, and I looked uncannily like Dean. Which is not a bad thing, but it's, I don't have the world's greatest beard. We'll see how it goes. It's definitely plenty of gray in it now. You can really see it at an angle best, I suppose. So there's that. This is pretty OCD. I gotta agree. And hey, I'm celebrating the OCD here because I've got a friggin' spreadsheet with pie charts of my war games. So let's see what the latest pie chart looks like. Where's the pie chart? Here's the pie chart. This is a bit of a mess, but it's what I got. So let's see here. All right. So this is all the data. This is all the publishers that I have. And then any publisher that I only have one game of, gets stacked in other and is in the pie chart in this wedge, the other wedge. Otherwise, I put this on Twitter. I think it was Twitter the other day. GMT is still on top and probably will remain so basically forever. SPI has exploded in the last 2 years or so as I've been buying a lot of the old SPI stuff that I had back in the day or other stuff that seemed interesting to me. Multi-Man's pretty big, but Multi-Man gets shortchanged. And in fact, they're tied with Decision, aren't they? They get shortchanged because of the expansions thing. Because I have just as much MMP stuff as I do from anybody else, but ASL counts once. So this whole nook right here that's just ASL is one item. It's 2 items actually, because I count starter kit separately, but it's only 2 lines. So, I mean, I agree. The life is too short to play shitty games, right? But sometimes you can play a game and say, this game sucked. I did not enjoy it. I think it is busted, or whatever problem you had with it. And then you approach it again years later and you have a different opinion. That can happen. So there are things, and that's one reason not to unload stuff unnecessarily, right? If I can not get rid of it, I will happily not get rid of it. So, but I got a whole stack of Pathfinder stuff, for example. That's going away. I don't need that. Oh God, yeah, no kidding. This sounds horrifying. That's one reason why I want to get this stuff out of the basement. And admittedly, nothing is being stored on the floor, right? The big wall of games back there, the lowest shelf is about 7 inches off the floor. The Kallaxes, which are storing the GMT stuff right now, are actually on a special Kallax stand that IKEA also didn't have in stock for the longest time, but they eventually got it, and I bought a couple of them. So that is safe. These shelves right behind me are the shelves that are in the most danger, because these are those cheap Walmart particle board things. They could disintegrate it. They could fall and crush me right now in the middle of this show. You never even know. Yes. Well, not me, but yeah, I mean, well, you know what? Back when we were at the old place, when we didn't have this much space, we did have a storage unit, and a bunch of my games were in the storage unit. They eventually migrated kind of piece by piece out of the storage unit, but that was a big pain in the ass, and the storage unit was expensive. So I could take that 100 and whatever it was dollars a month and buy games with it, right? So trying not to rip these. I have ripped one of these counters. I was able to repair it. They don't come out of, they're not the easiest counters to punch out of the sheets, but they're pretty far from the hardest. I got a lot of Compass. Compass comes in at, no, actually Multi-Man and Compass are tied. How about that? At 59 apiece. Let me pull this back up. So this wedge right here is GMT. This is SPI. Multi-Man and Compass are tied at 59 games each. Decision is at 50. A decent chunk of those are magazine games. Although that non-magazine decision contingent is increasing to witness this thing. Avalon Hill is at 38. I could easily double that, to be fair. It's just games I'm interested in, but I'm willing to pay what the average price is on eBay, and will eventually show up. The Gamers is 22 as opposed to Multi-Man. So you'll notice that if we put Multi-Man together with the Gamers, that they would be number 2, despite the no expansions rule. OSG, there's a lot. GDW, there's a fair amount. Most of that is science fiction stuff or Europa stuff. Yeah, all of it is basically science fiction stuff or Europa stuff, I believe. Not all of it is Traveler. Victory Games 13? That sounds like bullshit. No, that's actually correct. There's 13 Victory Games titles up there. So, and they're all awesome. So, in any case, this wasn't about me flashing the collection, anybody. XTR, I have a couple of Command Magazine games, not a lot. I had a few back in the day, including Proud Monster and Great War in Europe and a couple other things. Now, off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of that I have is Lee's Last Gamble. So, man, I don't even friggin' know what ASL product I have, to be honest. I mean, I can look at the boxes because I keep the boxes. But the action packs and stuff like that stuff, the cards, the title cards and stuff in the can with that stuff. I don't have space to store that shit. So that's got to go. But a lot of like small publishers, are starting to make an appearance here, like Nuts and Europa Simulazione and Hexasim. Although I've had 5+ Hexasim games for a while now. Where am I at with Hexasim at the moment? 5 or 6 sounds right. 6. I have 6 Hexasim games, and again, they're all impressive. Well, they had some interesting ones actually. I think I have like 1 or 2. Against the Reich is the one that I have, the Joe Balkowski design, and I picked it up because first of all it was cheap. And secondly, it's not particularly well regarded. But secondly, it actually appears to mechanically be a precursor to Great Campaigns of the American Civil War, believe it or not. And to me, that's super interesting. So I have acquired an inexpensive copy to take a look at, which I have not yet done. Already need some water. Simulations Canada. I don't think I have anything from SimCan. I could be wrong. I certainly don't have much. Well, I got this thing in front of me. It doesn't look like I have anything from Simulations Canada. And I was right. It's one from West End Games. But I could add a couple other. West End did a couple other interesting things too. The Tank Leader games, for example. There's at least a couple that I'm forgetting about because I never had them. But there's also Imperium Romanum, 1st and 2nd editions. And that is a kind of a one-of-a-kind game. I mean, it's an interesting... they did a couple of wargamey type Star Wars games, didn't they? Thinking about it. That's easy to forget, to be honest. No, there is what are you talking about? I got the Bullet Rye is what we're drinking tonight. I have one thing from People's Wargames. It is Duel for Kharkov, which was redone by either Excalibur or 3W or both. But I've got the People's Wargames version. Fire on the Volga. This I would look up on BGG. Fire on the Volga. So the problem I'm having with this title is there's a bunch of similar titles. So how many is the? I don't know. I'm going to just defer to Mike on this. I do probably have a couple of the reprints that Compass has done in Paper Wars, because that's a thing that was happening where they kind of had some kind of arrangement or handshake deal or whatever it was. West End Games did do the old D6 Star Wars RPG, yes. And I have just as many of their RPG products as I do their Wargame products, which means one of each. So I do have Paranoia, but it is not a West End Games edition. It is a mine is one of the Mongoose editions. Imperium Romana, I wouldn't even call it flawed. I would call it a detailed, dynamical model. I think it's better to not consider it a game than it is to call it flawed, because I don't think it's flawed. I think it did exactly what the designer intended it to do. Now there's some presentational issues in all the editions of it, but that aside, it's kind of a unique thing. All right, Nova Games made Fire on the Volga, according to Mr. Sample. Thank you, Marty. Just Playing Wargames. I do not have anything from Just Playing Wargames. I do have one thing from Kuro Nico in Hong Kong, so there's that. I mean, yeah, but this is basically accurate. Single game could legitimately consume a year of one's time. I mean, I have played a couple of games that consumed a year of my time. The longest individual, in terms of like calendar consumed, I think the longest game I've played was Second Front, the Europa Second Front. That took about a year and a half to play from beginning to end, last turn. We've played a couple of other things that took about a year. I think we played Case Blue for about 6 months, for example, before the Soviets decided that negotiations would be the better way out of this situation. Are we on heavy cruisers? We are. So, biggest, but yeah, I mean, if you're playing a big game, you can totally, it might last a year. That's possible. Not all monster games will last a year, but some of them will. Some of them will last longer than that. So, Ben Thornton has kind of hit the nail on the head here, hasn't he? So, so I think what the kids are calling this nowadays is FOMO, fear of missing out. So you buy it because you don't want to miss it. And I've done that. I've totally done that. I felt like I did that with A Time for Trumpets, for example. I bought it without a good reason to have bought it, and it subsequently walked out the door in a trade. I think I traded it for something. So, on the other hand, there is... Graffiti Album says, any monster that try to tackle yourself could conceivably last a year. I'm not quite sure what you mean here, but yeah, I mean, any monster game... well, some monster games will take a year to play. Assuming you play once a week, right, which is what we typically do, you can... There's plenty of monster games that will take a year or more, but there's also plenty that will take 3 months or 6 months or whatever. So... I haven't played as much Europa as some of the really serious Europa people have, but I have every time I have played, I think I've played 3 or 4 games of Europa at this point. And 3 or 4, I've played Europa 3 or 4 times. Let me put it that way. Exactly the number of games that gets a little hairy because there was a war in the desert in there with the Wales War stuff and some other stuff. So, I always felt like the results you got at the end felt about right. They felt historically plausible, but there's certainly ahistorical stuff in there. And if that's going to bother you, then yeah, you're probably going to have some issues with Europa. Torino 44. So this is from Miku Games, the same folks that did the Finnish trilogy. It's the only other games that they did, as far as I am aware. And there was a thing just not too long ago that the owner of Miku Games has some copies left and is selling them for $10 a piece, shipping worldwide. So if you're interested, and this is another engagement of the I think it's in 41 or 40, something like that, or I guess 44. So actually, no, this is actually the Lapland War. Now that I'm remembering it correctly. So, also known as Sisu, the game is Hakapala for Advanced Squad Leader. So, yeah, there you go. So just send me the thing whenever that's happening, and then I will forget about it, and you can call me and remind me when it's about to start. So, This is true. I mean, I think a lot of people have this experience with something like Empire of the Sun, which is not a monster, and it's not particularly complicated. It's not a simple game, but it's not a really high complexity game. But it definitely takes some learning to actually play with a base level of competence. I mean, that's not always true. Some games you can just play and you feel fine. Maybe it's because your opponent also sucks at it. So I feel like I have some ability to say no to this, but you know, at the same time, sometimes exceptions occur, right? And something completely random ends up here. Now, on the other hand, let's say if you go to conventions and that kind of stuff, or sometimes even you get lucky and you see this stuff at flea markets or thrift stores or whatever, but that doesn't tend to happen to me. But I tend to go to conventions and get pretty good prices on stuff because I'll buy it if it's cheap. That's how a lot of the Avalon Hill stuff walked in the door. That's how several of the Victory games walked in the door. Did I need the original Victory games Vietnam, for example, since I have the GMT printing? No, I didn't. But it was like $15 or $20 or something like that after the GMT thing was available. And yes, I got rid of the previous copy, and I don't even actually remember getting rid of that. Same thing happened with the Victory Games Eric Lee Smith Civil War, which is a brilliant game. And I said to myself, well, Compass is redoing it. That'll surely be along any minute now. So I'll just dump the Victory game. Nope, that's still not out. So I got the Victory Games version back. And fortunately, that was in print for a long time and tends not to go for that much money. So, yeah, I Napoleon, you know, and the Plum Island Horror also sold out pretty quickly. So, I am not a big chess fan. I gotta be completely honest. That's part of that is cultural. Well, I mean, I of course agree with John on this, but this is true of any war game or marginally complicated game in the first place. This is true of RPGs. It's always easier to have somebody that knows what they're doing show you how to play, right? Yeah. So some of the GCACW stuff has lingered in the MMP warehouse. Atlanta is Ours hung around for a while. It was published, remember, at the same time as Roads to Gettysburg 2. Roads to Gettysburg 2 sold out pretty fast. Atlanta is Ours took like another year to sell out. Heavy cruisers. Still on the heavy cruisers. Well, this is true. I mean, they managed to make it work. It's just a clumsy way to make it work. So, well, Empire of the Sun is a masterpiece. There's no, I would be baffled if somebody was to say something different. Now they might say that I don't like that game, but that's a completely different statement. The magazine storage solution. So my magazine storage solution, no, not really. But, so what I do, should I grab one? I think I'll just grab one. Hold on a second. All right, so magazine storage. This is actually like a legitimate pain in the ass, in my opinion. Great question, David Kittleson. So what I do is I buy literature mailers. Those are these cardboard boxes that you would mail literature in. They come in a variety of sizes. Obviously, the ones I get are about 8 3/4 by 11.5 or something like that. And they just about perfectly fit Wargame components. So I then print a label and put it on the side. This is Blind Swords Volume 1 with these three games in it. And I can normally fit 3 or 4 magazine games in this size box. It's theoretically possible to do better than that if you use like a 3D printed counter storage. However, in order to really make that work, you also need to store the magazines separately from the game components, and then you're just duplicating the problem. So I don't like to do that. So that is how I like to do magazines. I am way behind on this, to say the least. I also wish they would redo Ukraine 43, and that's one that I don't have either. I, by the way, did not buy anything in the GMT sale. I meant to, and it just kind of never actually happened. And France 40 was the one I was going to buy. It's not like I can't get it. I can get it. Road to the Rhine is coming back from Compass at when, I don't know. Watch the Compass live stream. But Compass has a deal with Frank Chadwick to redo a bunch of Frank's games. Not all of them, because one of them's coming back from GMT. That would be House Divided, which I have ordered, by the way. So we're just sorting the ships by general ship class. We are... All right. We are officially only about 5 minutes behind on the chat. So let's take a quick pit stop and hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games. Take it away, Noble Knight.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more. Going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at. Complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
All right, so big thanks and shout out to Noble Knight, and I'll be happy to visit there this weekend. So thanks, Noble Knight, the official sponsor of the Counter Clipping Show, and do take note of the affiliate link in the video description. So Michael Kirk says, LPS boxes, do we mean the same things that the Against the Odds magazines came in? Because I hated those. Archive boxes, I've seen these too. Plus you can get like blank boxes from Roger McGowan from C3I as well. That might be worth investigating, but I feel like I have too many magazine games to deal with that. I normally buy exactly this. I get them from Amazon. It's about $60 for a pack of like 25 or something like that. And 25 is a ton of them for what I use them for. Do not unpunch 90% of them. I think I know what you mean. I mean, this is totally true. If you don't punch them, you can just keep them in a magazine, bag, and off you go. DVG trays. So, Jeff, good luck. Banks, good luck. So maybe they fixed them. I don't know. But the problem with DVD trays is the lids don't snap on at all. They might as well throw the lid in a wastebasket. That makes the trays basically worthless, in my opinion. So, let's see here. Garrison Venn mistakenly bought the Ziploc Gold Juno and sort of been scrambling to find a box big enough after clipping it. Did they quarter fold or half fold or eighth fold the map? So are they the full size maps? So the maps are like, whatever that would be, 16 by 22 or whatever. That number makes no sense. Did they fold the maps to fit in a bookcase box? Because if they did, then these kinds of mailers, by the way, you can get these in 3 or 4 inch deep boxes. I just don't, because those are more expensive and I don't want to buy 25 of them at a time. There he is. As long as you're not late on Saturday, I'll be calling everybody in the next day or two to make the final arrangements for this trip. Let's see. How many questions? I have 0. I have never owned a House Divided. That is a gap in my resume. Surely the adult beverage is right here. So, I've never played it. I've never owned it, but I have ordered the GMT version, and I'm sure it'll be nice. So, as Brant says, thumbs up, please. Thank you very much. Remember, you won't see the live number unless you refresh the window. So, all right, very good. Just got an email from Jason Carr, playtesting away team. That sounds exciting. Needs to submit the report. I mean, there's about a dozen reasons to suspect that away team will be great. One of which is that John Butterfield's involved, and it's a spiritual successor to the Pandora games from Ares magazine back in the day. And I like what John does in science fiction games. So, and it sounds exciting. So, very good. I got it though. I got what you were saying. I don't like the DVG trays. Now, Lock and Load at one point was doing the deep dish trays as well. And those were much, much better. However, you could only get them in like this ammo crate thing where you got them in a box and we got like 4 of the trays or something like that. And I don't think those are even available anymore. Those would be my preference if you like that particular style of tray. Somebody else mentioned the Aegis magazine trays. There's a video coming on the Aegis magazine trays, and I just haven't gotten it edited yet. So it's filmed. There's a problem with the footage, so editing it fixing it to get it publishable will take effort, and I haven't had the time to put that effort in yet. But there is a Aegis magazine tray that is really, really nice. And if you don't have 100 magazine games like I do, is that glitter? What the fuck? Anyway, they folded the maps as 8. Okay. So you can put them in a bookcase-sized box then. So yeah, I'd go find some of these. You can get these in smaller quantities at like Staples. You're just going to pay more for them. Well, okay, that's fine, but I always hated that. I remember these trays, of course. I mean, you have bookcase games and then put counter trays in the box where the lids don't snap on. That's just baffling. Yes, and they're really nice. 5 of them is, send me the URL on Facebook or something. If you texted me that, I don't have my phone handy at the moment. This is basically what it is. It is a counter tray with a recessed lid, and an inner lid on the compartments, and then an outer lid that fits over the whole thing. It's really nice. I will once I get the video done, you'll get to see a video on them. I'll have to take Mark's word for this. I'm not sure I will be encountering Mr. Carp anytime soon, unless he'll be in San Diego, which then I guess I will. How many bulge games are enough? I will stop by in bulge games as soon as I stop seeing bulge games that I think look interesting. So I don't have there's a ton of bulge games, right? I don't have, I might have 6 or 7 or something like that, maybe 8 bulge games. It's not an insane number. Is it more than I need? Sure. But, what are you going to do, right? Games look good. What are you going to not buy them, right? So how do you think I got 610 games? Ooh. Paul Grasmir's Oregon Laminations 2.5 millimeter deluxe broke. Oh my. So there is a video on YouTube on how to fix it. That repair does work sometimes. However, let me find it. This is my original busted clipper. With Fucko's assistance, we made a replacement handle out of oak. This is not going to break, ever. You might want to contour a little better than I did here, and you want to make sure that it's like the dimensions are correct, or the thing won't close properly, but that will basically permanently solve the problem. And this is why I typically go with the non-deluxe, because they're indestructible. Mark says that Mr. Carp is unbeatable at House Divided, and I'm prepared to take Mark's word for it. Ad Hoc, Paris Bravo says, Ad Hoc produces trays for oversized counters, and they lock. I don't know what that even means. All right, I'm going to put... hold on. We'll have to wait a second here for this to come up, but hopefully it'll work. I'm not sure who that is. The other thing that Danny is talking about is, so this is my 2.5 millimeter deluxe. Don't do this. Don't do what I did. Take one die, one D6, and a big full-size D6, and glue it inside the handle so that the handle doesn't quite close all the way. That'll relieve a lot of mechanical stress on the innards here, and isn't a guarantee that it won't break, but it should alleviate the issues with it. It shouldn't break nearly as easily. Let me put it that way. Brent, that link doesn't work. Let me see if I can make it work. Here's a responsive website for you anyway. Yeah, but you got to look at that's about the right price, but then you got to look at what Uline will charge you to ship them. That is what has prevented me as a private citizen from ordering from Uline in the past. When I was running a warehouse and we needed peanuts and boxes and all that stuff, we ordered from Uline all the time. That kind of operation might have a little more leverage than I do. So, all right. Well, that sucks. So, what game am I unbeatable at? Friggin' nothing. That's what. You are blacklisted? Wait a minute. Who has blacklisted Mark? Mo from Mo's Game Table is here. Mo, thanks for stopping by. No one would dare blacklist Mark Herman. So the sheer hubris. There you go. There's rickety audio? What's wrong with the audio? There's rickety audio? Here we go. Okay. I have managed to acquire the link to the Aegis magazine counter trays, so you can all go look at them over here. Don't expect the website to be incredibly responsive, however. Is my audio what is wrong with the audio? Oh, for fuck's sake. Hold on a second. All right, let me know if that has fixed the audio problem. All right, apparently it was intermittent anyway, so that's fine. The audio is working fine now. So that is a great way to get the audio to work right. So the bad audio is like death to a show like this. So if there's audio problems, please let me know. So I do appreciate it. It could be, that's possible. It could be that just pulling up that magazine tray ate my entire internet connection. That's possible. So. I am trying to figure out. Okay. I hopped out of StreamYard and hopped back in. Sometimes there'll be a problem and it'll be a StreamYard problem, and that's why this isn't quite true. The only control you have is whatever limited control you have over who your internet service provider is. I was pretty much stuck with shitty internet or Spectrum, which is still shitty internet. It's just less shitty than any of the alternatives that I had. So so there's that. All right. What the hell was that? Anyway. So, Brant, thanks for sending me the link. Did I see the super chat? Oh, I did not see the super chat. Damn it. Thank you, William Aarons. Did I miss it? I guess I did. Thanks to I missed it because I hopped out. That's why. So, William Aarons, thanks so much for the support. It's much appreciated. It's 57 board games from Milton Bradley's American Heritage series of 60 plus years ago. So 57 board games, I think, is a very disciplined collection. That's how I'm thinking of that these days. I don't know how many of the American Heritage games from the 50s or whatever that was, 50s or 60s, I guess, really hold up today. But certainly a lot of people who are of a specific generation will remember them with great fondness. And, if you're playing them, that's enough. So Ad Hoc is a publishing company. But possibly my brain is just taking a dump today. That is possible. S&T Press customer service link that actually works. So I would call them on this at the moment because they're in the middle of some kind of website redesign, and I would not assume that the website, anything is going to work properly. at the moment. So I'd probably just call him on this. As a reminder, we were supposed to have Doc on last week. Doc had technical problems on the Chit Show on last Tuesday, so Mark Herman was kind enough to stop by. We have rescheduled Doc for October 2nd, October 1st. Tomorrow we will have Harry Rowland on. That'll be great. And then the week after that, we will have Steve Fratt, who is a miniatures guy, and we're going to talk about miniatures war games. And I will probably wear a mask for that particular show. Minden Games. I've heard of Minden Games, and Torgau I've heard of. But Ad Hoc Games is just not ringing a bell for me right now for whatever reason. I mean, they all have an improved order of battle, right? They improved it over the last Bulge game that came out a year or two before that, right? So, if you don't trust the order of battle, ask Carl. How's the order of battle in such and such a game? Because he's going to know. I prefer my counters to look nice. So thank you, whoever reminded me that I had missed a super chat. All right, let's just spin down to the bottom. All right, Battle Cry. That's one of the ones I tend to see more of. Same with Dogfight. I've never played any of those. These were of a generation or a whole generation before I was born. So I'm pretty sure we haven't blacklisted anybody. Well, we have blacklisted a few Nimrods, but not Mark. So Randy Malden also speaks highly of the old Battle Cry. Of course, this is a different game than the Richard Borg Battle Cry. So much appreciated. It is much appreciated. So it does take me some time to get to the super chats sometimes because I'm usually behind in the chat. In this case, I actually hopped out and the super chat showed up. Remember, there's like a 30-second or 20-second or whatever it is, like stream delay between when I say something and when you hear it. So that was just bad timing. I would have eventually caught it because there's like a special tab for super chats in StreamYard, but I might not have caught it for 45 more minutes. So it didn't have Skirmish. Mark says Dogfight is good. We were actually supposed to play Air Force last week in our Wargaming Day, and that ended up not happening. Incidentally, let me give you a quick update on that. We have completed our game, meaning we decided not to keep playing, of CSS Saipan. Not a bad game, or not a bad game system, I think, but I think next time we try it, we will try it with one of the more up-to-date games in the series, because that was the first game in the series. And the rulebook is not as clear as it could be. It's not as bad as some people say it is, but it's not a great rulebook. The new one ought to be better. And I've got all the World War II entries in that series. So what we have begun playing, and we'll probably only play it for a couple of weeks, so it's kind of like an exploratory thing, till our fourth fella gets back from wherever it is that he went, is Federation and Empire, which I've wanted to play for literally decades. And it is convoluted. Not in a bad way, though. It's convoluted in the way that appeals to me, because there's paperwork, and it's pretty fiddly. I like fiddly, so what can I say? So, Mike, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you later. Yes, that Air Force. That was what we were supposed to do as our one-night thing. This is completely understandable trajectory right here. No, is this on the website? Because last I checked, it wasn't. Because I will need that. That is actually the thing that we're doing, because we only have 3 people. So we've got one person playing the Kazinti, that's me. We've got one person playing the Lyrans. We got somebody else playing the Klingons, and somebody will end up playing the Hydrans if they hop in at some point. But I don't think we're going to get that far. So you did, Eric Hansen, just missed the Noble Knight ad by not too many minutes. So you've seen it before. You'll be okay. Yeah, I mean, it's neat. It is pretty neat. Thank you, Mo. I appreciate that. I think I got this correct. Yeah, I've seen these, right? These used to pop up back in the day at the Origins auctions, but But the games themselves are, like I said, of a generation earlier than I was born. So really probably close to 2 generations. It is, oh yeah, so I am not tempted to play out all the battles using Starfleet battles. That sounds nutty. You could do it. It would just, it's exactly what Ed's saying here. It would make a game that normally takes a year, take 8 years, 10 years to play. And nobody needs that. MIDI Doctors. We're talking about the Steve Jackson game. So the original Triplanetary was I want to say GDW's first science fiction board game. Came out in 73, 74. I want to say 74, something like that. Might even have been 75. I don't remember. But it was the rights went to Steve Jackson Games 20 plus years ago. And they had been talking about doing a revised edition of it for ages. And a couple of years ago, they finally did that on They did a Kickstarter, and there's a nice new edition of Triplanetary available. I assume that's what we're talking about. Well, we have the errata from Robert O, thanks for this. We had the errata from Saipan, so that wasn't a problem. I even had the counters because, like I said, I have all the games in this, all the World War II games in the series. What the hell is going on here? There we go. Thank you, Mo. That was Mo sending me a ping. Ooh, look at that. That's nice. I said when this thing came out, I said there needs to be a series rule book for this thing, and there wasn't until relatively recently. So yeah, we will totally play using these rules next time we play. And I think we will play it again. I think we generally liked the system. Saipan itself is the kind of action that not everybody's going to have a taste for. Let me put it that way. Cause it's a lot of, Marines getting gunned down on the beach and then Japanese getting ground out of caves and fortified positions for like 80 turns. So it's a lot of turns. I completely agree, and I'm not sure what the thought process was that led to no series rule book. I mean, I kind of get it for the first game in the series, but I feel like it became real obvious, real fast, that game series needed a series rule book. So there's a lot of friggin' American battleships here, which I guess is not a surprise. There we got that. We got some airplanes here. Lots of airplanes. American airplanes. We're clipping the Americans here. We haven't even started the Japanese yet. Differences. Ooh, this is worth an entire... I could do a whole video on this. It would be like an hour. What I recommend is checking out Wise Guy History, who has done this exact video on... we will do it that way. The differences between CSS and GTS. Offhand... they are very similar. They're just different enough to be confusing, basically. Guess we're doing that. There's a whole lot of naval bombers in this thing. So you will still need the game rule books that came in the game for something like Saipan. For this exact reason, you need the amphibious rules. There's some interesting things in there. I also like the wind chit. So in GTS... so when you barrage something with artillery, unless you roll a 9, which is just a flat failure, you get some kind, depending on the intensity of the barrage, you get a smoke effect in the hex. Okay, that affects anything in the hex, whether it's you or the other guy. In GTS that goes away. All the smoke goes away either at the beginning of the turn or at the end of the turn. I forget which. But in CSS, there is a wind chit. You pull the wind chit, and then all that comes out. Mark, I am clipping Advanced Pacific Theater of Operations. Don't worry, my Pacific War is already clipped. I did that. I haven't played Last Gamble yet. I haven't played Time for Trumpets either. I think these differences are going to be huge. There are different scales, for one thing. Last Gamble's regimental level, more or less, and Time for Trumpets is battalion level. Time for Trumpets is 5 maps. Last Gamble is 2. That by itself is going to cause differences. better comparison would be with between this would be like Last Gamble or Ardennes 44 or Bitter Woods. Although there is a very high, let's say watch the unboxing video, very high standard of historical research in The Last Gamble, and the mechanics appear to back that up. So Time for Trumpets is better compared to something like Wacht am Rhein, either version of Wacht am Rhein. So this is correct. The series, both series were designed by Starkweather. I want to say Ross Martel was the game designer for Saipan specifically. I might be misremembering that. So sometimes I remember to put the game I'm clipping here, and sometimes I don't. So it's fair to ask. I have not even gotten to this yet. Battlefield Normandy. Do you mean Battle for Normandy? Because Battle for Normandy, I found pretty straightforward to play. And not that there were no ambiguities in the last version of the game. But the... as opposed to Time for Trumpets, which I found completely opaque because of the way the rules are presented. The rules appear to be presented in such a way that if you already know how to play Bitter Woods, you'll probably be okay. But if you haven't played Bitter Woods, well, too bad. So there's that. A fair number, actually. I mean, just off the top of my head. I mean, if you count like a subtitle or something like that, maybe. But I think none of my Bulge games have the word bulge in the title. So, and I agree with this. I'm very impressed with what I see at kind of at all levels in Last Gamble. So, haven't played it yet, and probably won't get to it that soon. But I would say there's a pretty good chance that sometime in the next 12 months. I mean, remember that this actually does reflect on the topic tonight. So let's say a new and exceptionally exciting wargame comes out. Let's say that it is Galarian Empire from Lock and Load Publishing, which is actually shipping to people now. So they're all those Kickstarters that they were backed up on, that stuff's all shipping. So if anybody ordered that, we are not going to play enough of it to make this worthwhile. However, what I have seen of Fed and Empire so far makes me want to play more. So this is not impossible. And I'll talk about it once I've finished our limited experience with it. But I mean, I think we're going to get like 2 turns in. So some people really like Time for Trumpets. I did not play it, but I found it not really easy to figure out how to play it from what was in the box. So had I tried to play it with Bruno, I'm sure Bruno would have been an effective teacher. So this is absolutely true. It is a lot of these historical topics we're really never going to really have an end to, right? Because there's always going to be some kinds of open questions. Enemy Action Ardennes, that's the one I always forget about. So off the top of my head, I've got both versions of Wacht am Rhein. They count as 2 separate games. I've got Last Gamble, which doesn't have bulge in the title. I've got Last Blitzkrieg, which doesn't have bulge in the title, unless you count the subtitle. I've got Enemy Action Ardennes, which doesn't have bulge in the title. I've got Ardennes 44, which doesn't have bulge in the title. I am positive I've got at least 1 or 2 more. But so yeah, this I think that was actually a good question, but plenty of them do. I mean, plenty of them do. Remember, there's 2 different games called There's 2 different games called Last Blitzkrieg. There's Last Blitzkrieg and The Last Blitzkrieg. The BCS game is The Last Blitzkrieg, I think. But it'd be easy enough to mess that up. I don't have Ardennes 2. Vince says that Felike was defending his doctoral thesis, only more painful. I really do like some of the things that Bruno did with command and control in that. And that is that's one of the reasons I picked the game up. So I don't actually own any of the Avalon Hill Battle of the Bulge games, nor have I played any of them. I didn't play a Bulge game until the last decade or so, to be completely fair. Okay, so I will accept Carl's correction. It is Last Blitzkrieg, as opposed to The Last Blitzkrieg, which was the old 3W title, which I can't remember who the designer of that was. One-page bulge from Steve Jackson Games. I do not. Who made Crusade in Europe? Was this West End Games? That doesn't sound right. Somebody will know. Okay. Eric Hansen has Bulge 65 and BCS Last Blitzkrieg. I've never played Bulge 65. It is a timeless classic, however. But BCS Last Blitzkrieg is just terrific. So, I think that this is more or less an accident. However, you have my sympathies. I have been annihilated like this in the past before. Not this time, because the only thing I need for Space Empires is the new expansion. However, the new Space Empires printing is going to be in a new box too, and if that's a 4-inch box, then I think I will replace my existing copy, even if I don't. Even if I just move the old components to the new box. Carl says that the Last Blitzkrieg is by Michael Scott Smith. Okay. Explains why I didn't remember that name. Nothing against Mr. Smith, but... All right. Yes, it is. Yes, Bolt 65. It does have the pink German units. One of those weird Avalon Hill 60s artifacts. Very psychedelic. Yeah, if it's a 4-inch box, so the expansion is coming in a 4-inch box. I think I need 2 4-inch boxes to store Space Empires 4X. That's the problem. It is not easy to store. Eventually, I'll have some kind of 3D printed solution, but I haven't even tried to do that yet. So I have all of the existing stuff for Space Empire, so I only need all good things. West End Games is possible. When I don't know, I look this up on BGG. So... yes, you do. I agree completely. I don't care too much about. I don't care too much about the combined rule books, but the combined scenario books, that sounds useful. I disagree. I'm very happy with the sort of the dynamic of play that BCS brings to the table. To me, it feels extremely fresh. And really effective in putting you into the shoes of the battlefield commander. And not only that, but kind of floating you between the role of theater commander running the whole show, and then stepping into the shoes of the divisional or whatever the formation level is, commander, and then having to make the decision, okay, I have it and I can choose to activate. So I'm going to make that choice as the theater commander. And then as the formation commander, what am I going to try to actually accomplish? And what do I feel like I have a reasonable shot at accomplishing? So, that's a big negatory. So it changed the box art too, and it is nice. So Joe Hammond has 9 Bulge games. Now they seem... do folks think that having 9 Bulge games is an incredibly large number of Bulge games? Let me put it that way. Because I think it's safe to say that even if we just limit ourselves to like what I'll call operational Bulge games, which means basically that it covers the whole battle and it's not just like some, airborne guys fighting it out in front of Bastogne. This is not... this is unkosher for those not lucky enough to have acquired a copy already. Fortunately, I have acquired a copy already. So, Brad says that Mike C will be running 2 sessions of Roll Fury at the Fall Assembly in Cary, North Carolina next month. That is great. So, it's going to be a really good game for convention play. I think we're going to see it pop up at a lot of conventions. Let me put it that way. Apparently, just checking the time. Apparently, I think I'm not pulling any more counters out of the sheets at this point. Apparently, GMT did pretty well with the sale, for what I could tell. So, at least. There is, Carl, if you're talking about the geek list on BGG that lists operational Bulge games, that's my list. So And that's why I put it together, because I had come up with all the ones that I knew about, but I knew there was more. So yeah, there's plenty. And so I don't feel like nine's a lot, but not crazy a lot, right? I mean, I probably have, what did I list, 6 or 7? And I don't feel like I need any more, but at the same time, if one comes out that I think is really interesting or has a lot of promise, I'm probably going to pick it up. So there you go. Yeah, there's probably more than one of these. So, and I made it a public list so that people could tell me what games I was missing. That was kind of the point. So, Jonathan says Rebel Fury is still listed. Let me take a look at this. So the way GMT's website works is that if you have a game that is out of print, it will still show up on the website. This appears to be still available. So if it's, in my experience, if it's out of print, the add to cart button will not be there. The page will otherwise be identical. I'm still seeing an add to cart for Rebel Fury. Now, that said, I do expect, if it's not gone now, I expect it to be gone before too much longer. This was my exact situation. I mean, there were 1 or 2 things that I might have ordered, but this was kind of my exact situation, that I like the vast majority of the GMT stuff that I might have bought, I already have. So I was like, I just P500 everything for the most part. Yeah, it wasn't like I decided not to order anything, because like I said, I do need France 40, and I probably could have found something else too. I could have ordered some boxes or counter trays if nothing else. I just like didn't get to it that week. So Thunder in the East is, I feel like I am where I'm at. So we did play a little bit of it. We screwed some things up, and I felt like there were some significant component challenges with Thunder in the East, meaning the counters delaminated on every copy I have seen, and that's at least 4 different copies. And the rule book fell apart in all 4 copies as well. So other than that, I think the game has a lot of potential, and I'm very interested in seeing what Frank Chadwick and Alan Emmerich can do with it, but I am also willing, because I have 610 war games, I don't need to be fretting about what their project status is. So whenever they have an update for us, and I do read their blog updates, then I am interested. But other than that, I'm not sitting on my hands waiting for that to come out. So, really. Well, I don't know. Andrew Cook, this worked for me. I was just able to add it to the cart. I'm going to remove it from the cart now, because for all I know, it might be reserving a copy, and I don't want to cheat somebody else out of it. So, and I do think it's going to be gone before too much longer, even if it's not. And it's always available at Noble Knight, remember. But in a year, if it's not reprinted by then, which would be pretty fast reprint by GMT standards, then it will be going for a premium price, right? Oh, really? The new printing? Really? Holy cow. This is showing like it's in stock too. I'm not sure what's going on with this. This is absolutely true. And I think Danny actually talks about this in the extensive historical notes for, or I should say Danny and Rich, in the extensive historical notes for The Last Gamble. A lot of their performance there was they were just like not in position. So this is true. Thunder in the East is how you're supposed to pronounce it. I'm pretty sure that Frank has approved that pronunciation. So Marty says that he thinks Thunder in the East fell victim to bloat, saw a game being played at I don't, so I'm not, without knowing exactly what you saw at Tempe, It's hard for me to say this, but I didn't feel like, just in terms of footprint, I didn't feel like Thunder in the East itself was obscenely large. I mean, it's got to be a big game. It's 6 maps, I think, or is it 3? I mean, it's got a decent footprint. I did feel like there was some over design of the components, like the 3 different sizes of square counters, the round counters, the rectangular counters, the triangular counters, the other size rectangular counters. I mean, did we need every single type of thing to have its own unique counter shape? I found that somewhat distracting and not really adding a ton to the game. Had it just been the 3 different ground unit sizes, I probably wouldn't even have noticed. I would have observed that it's an unusual way to do it, but other than that, I wouldn't have known. This is, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, it felt gimmicky to me and distracting and not adding value to the game. Okay. So what the differences are between website inventory and actual inventory are, I can't tell you. So I did this. This happened to me too. I just tried this. It still adds to cart, but, I don't know. I decided I didn't need the whole new game because I had the game. I just bought the box and the new map. The new map is really nice, but the old map was no slouch either. So, I mean, had it been I would have just bought the box if that had been the offer. So, I also, Banish All Their Fears is another one where I didn't pre-order it, and very shortly after it ended up shipping, one of the locals had a copy, and I was looking at it. I'm like, this looks cool. So I ended up picking it up. So I do have Banish All Their Fears again, on the strength of what looks to be a very interesting command and control system. So not bad. It's not bad. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if the website's not reflecting that, but if GMT says that they're out of stock, then I'm going to assume they're out of stock. So it's all good. All right, we got about 20 minutes here, folks, so plenty of time yet. I have owned, but do not currently own, Bitter Woods, and I've never played it. So I understand it's good, but a lot of people like it, but I don't own it, and at this point, having had it, I think once, and it went away somehow. I haven't been checking the out of stock page. So, that may have more up-to-date information. I don't really know what Bitterwoods is bringing to the table at this point that my other 7 Bulge game or whatever it is games don't. To be honest, I mean, it's popular. Lots of people like it. At every Compass Expo, I see people playing it. There were some people playing it at WBC. So it retains a good deal of popularity. It has a good heritage from Avalon Hill and all that stuff. It's just like, I'm not sure I need it at this point. Maybe somebody could convince me that I do. But I'm not like, there's not a Bulge game shortage around here either. So if I was going to look into, I might be more sympathetic to buying like something like the old SPI Bulge, maybe, or even the original Ardennes Offensive from 71 or 72 or something like that. Those might be interesting, but I would also be looking for a copy at a very reasonable price. So there's that. I have not played Imperial Tide. It seems the people I've talked to who have played it, seem to speak highly of it, but I don't see it. I've seen it played a couple of times at Compass Expo. Let me put it that way. And not just cause Greg's running it, right? Cause that happened too. I don't count that cause Greg's running it, right? Oldest Bulge game that I have. Ooh, I didn't have to think about that. None of the Bulge games I have are super duper old. I can tell you that. Scott Rowland, thanks for stopping by. And Mark Herman says that Ardennes Offensive is a very solid Bulge game. And that's not a hugely expensive buy either. So Bulge 20, I never got into any of those. So at one point there was talk of maybe this is a question for Doc. At one point there was talk of Decision picking up some of the Napoleonic 20 and other games from Victory Point, and that seems to have not happened. I'm not sure what happened to that. Oof. So all right, so Ryan asks, does anyone like to have different printings of the same game if sufficiently different? Russian Campaign 5th versus Compass or Original? So, normally my answer would be no to this. However, there are some examples where I will have one or the other, or sometimes both for research purposes, because I want to see what the game looked like originally. So, for example, Vakdam Rhine. I've got the Decision version, okay? It's a completely different game, so I don't have any problem with having both on the shelf. I have exceptions to my not generally answer to this question. One exception is War Between the States, where I do have both the SPI and Decision versions. Another example, if I had the SPI version, might be Empires of the Middle Ages. I have the Decision version. And I think the Decision version of that game is completely respectable. It's kind of got some add-ons in it, but the add-ons are kind of clearly their own thing, so you can just kind of play the original if you want. They did redo the map as an area map instead of a point-to-point map, but they could be topographically identical. I don't know. This was actually asked earlier. I've never owned this. Isn't this like available for downloading for free? Because if it isn't, it kind of should be. Another case might be, there might be a couple of games, one or two. I think just one, where I have the magazine version and the SPI boxed version as well. Normally, that's something that I wouldn't feel a need to have. In this case, the game in question is actually, it's over here, Stonewall. I'll probably keep the boxed version. Maybe Mark can tell us what, if any, are the differences between the two versions. But they might be totally identical, except that one version is in a box. I don't think I have any other duplicates like that. Nope, I'm wrong. Wilson's Creek. I also have Wilson's Creek in the magazine as well. So there you go. This is why there's a spreadsheet, folks. So Ryan has some exceptions as well. Original magazine. So I'll tell you what, there's an incredible efficiency in magazine games, right? In that you can store them very easily, right? Like I just showed, I could put in the space it would take me to store one of these boxes, I can fit 4 magazine games, and one can make that super duper efficient. So Mark says there's no differences between the two. That means that the magazine version's going right back to Noble Knight, which I think is where it came from in the first place, hilariously. Stonewall in the magazine's not worth a bunch of money, so I don't really care too much. Well, the point wasn't really to answer this question, though, was it? The point was to talk about some of the thinking that goes into such a decision, more so than arriving at a number, because my number is going to be different from Brant's number. Brant's got, I think Brant probably has 2 to 3 times as much RPG stuff as I do, for example. I don't know that, but that's kind of what it sounds like. And I'm guessing he's got at least as many war games as I do as well. That's just a guess. But I mean, I know people that have 2,000 war games. I couldn't name 2,000 war games. And I'm, I didn't just start this yesterday. So I think we actually have done this, actually. There's enough material to do it. The problem I would have with doing that is I'd kind of want to co-host for it, because somebody who's played more of them than I have, because I haven't played that many of them. I've played Ardennes 44. I've played Last Blitzkrieg. I've played Vakdam Rhine, the Decision Vakdam Rhine. I've never played the original. There might be another 1 or 2 that I've played, but that's about it. So, well, I mean, quaint is not a really inappropriate term here, right? I mean, it's It's a classic. It came out in the 60s, so it was the only game in town at the time, right? If you wanted to play a Bulge game and it was 1965, well, this was the Bulge game that you had access to. I don't think anything else would come out until at least the early 70s. So, yeah, Mike has a lot of war games. I don't know if you know. I think he might have more than 2,000, actually. Mike, feel free. I think Mike had to leave, actually. So, all right, we got some bullshit in the chat here, folks. We're going to go fix that. So pardon me while I do so. There you go. Have a nice day. Anyway, Marcus played most of them, but The Last Gamble is in study. Played its earlier version. I never owned Hitler's Last Gamble. Shit, here's another one that I didn't list, right? Battles for the Ardennes. So, you know, it's hard. This is why we have a spreadsheet, folks. So, Brant, thanks for stopping by. This is way later than you normally have to bolt, by the way. So, thanks for coming. Yeah, it was in the Twitch chat. It's typical. I have less ability to police Twitch than I do YouTube. At the same time, there's a couple people who really like watching on Twitch, and I like to support my giant Twitch fan base. So, I have heard of Wave of Terror, I think, but I haven't played it. There's also Tigers in the Mist. So, yeah, tons and tons of Bulge games that don't have Bulge in the name. Do I have... no. I have the version of Gettysburg that they did in the 70s. That's the one I'm thinking of. And that's kind of the one that was the most interesting of the different versions of Avalon Hill Gettysburg to me. It's not the 58 one. It's like the one from the 70s. Let's hope this is working. This is misbehaving now, too. Ooh, that sounds intriguing, actually. So the battalion scale Bulge games, Time for Trumpets, either version of Vakdam Rhine, Wave of Terror, apparently. There's at least a couple other ones at that scale, but it is a unusual and pretty detailed scale for that particular topic. I feel like there might actually be more battalion scaled Normandy games than Bulge games, but that might be nonsense. I'm not sure. So Wave of Terror is a Command magazine game published in 97, and I don't have the issue number here offhand. Issue number 41. This covers the entire battle. Mini monster with 2 maps and 840 counters. Magazine game, but XTR was known to do that from time to time. Designer John Desch, who is not somebody that I'm familiar with. So yeah, this looks potentially intriguing. And the map, there's not really a good map image on BGG, but the map actually looks interesting. So that might be worth a look. Lee Grant, thanks so much for the support. It is appreciated. I should actually do a video on this. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that my wargaming, I keep calling it a database, but it's just a spreadsheet. I don't know that I'm being incredibly sophisticated about it, but hey, why not? I could get content out of that. Why not? Normandy battalion scale, both Atlantic Walls, Battle for Normandy, Longest Day. There's at least one other one. Overlord and Killing Ground. SPI's Cobra is not really at battalion scale, even though some of the units, I think, are... No, I think the units are all at least regiments in that, I believe. So, Carl says Killing Ground is regimental. That actually sounds correct now that I think about it. That said, it's a pretty big regimental game, so Lee Grant would be interested in that. So it's a good idea. I should totally do that in my copious free time. And of course, Killing Ground does count because of its expansion Overlord. Carol, thanks for stopping by. There's at least one other one that I could think of. I've never another one that's on the really like all of these SPI soapboxes are on the list of things I really want to play, and the only ones that I have played are War Between the States and War in Europe. So clearly, there's a aggressive itinerary of things to do around here. And hopefully we'll actually have the time to get some of that to the table. I've got right now Glory and Empire set up in here. And I have I Napoleon set up, and I can't put a monster on the table in addition to those two. Although neither of those things are particularly space hungry. So Leah's interested, and now that you've mentioned it, I think it's not a bad idea. And I could, take that video today, or you could just use PGG like a lot of other people do. Ooh, D-Day 64. D-Day 64 is not a Normandy game that holds up well, I don't think. However, it's the first war game with a hexagon map. And that makes it really important. There will actually be, if it's not out already, there will actually be a short on that exact topic sometime soonish. Game organization, I track all of these. So Jean, well, hold on. I mean, if we got people asking here, I'll have to. So I'll just show you briefly what I keep track of. And of course, I lost the screen share. All right, so let's hide that. All right, so the name, I use this working name in that it's not necessarily the full title or the BGG title. It's the title I want to friggin' deal with. The publication year, whether it's a war game or magazine game, or what are the other options here? A tie-in. I'm not sure I have any examples of that off the top of my head, so let's see what counts as a tie-in. Okay, so tie-in in this context means that it's a war game, but it is tied into something else like an RPG line. So most of this is going to be Traveler. In fact, basically all this is Traveler except for the first item, War of Wizards, which ties into Empire of the Petal Throne, and Star Trader, which ties into John Butterfield and SPI's universe. So that's what that means. And then I have Era, which is a broad era. So if we look at, and there's quite a few, but it's intent, gunpowder eats a lot, for example. Scale will either be strategic, operational, or tactical. I'll sometimes say abstract for something weird like, what's a good example? I'm not sure I could think, like Battle Line would count here probably. I think I actually listed it with the non-war games. Publisher is pretty self-explanatory, but I do separate whatever it says on the box is what I go with. So if the box says the gamers and not MMP, I count it as the gamers. And if it says MMP, I count it as MMP. Series, if it's part of a series. The number, if it's like a numbered version. Magazines count as series games in this respect. So I'll say this is S&T issue number 338. I'll have a thing for formats. Magazine insert means it just came with a magazine or it's in a Ziploc or whatever. Avalon Hill bookcase boxes get called out separately because they're a different size than everybody else's box. Not quite true, but they're a different size than most other wargame boxes. So I store them separately. Collection status just means that it's in the collection or it's on the trading block or something. Here's the played versus unplayed. Here's a more detailed breakdown of category, which obviously I haven't populated yet. And I don't know what these columns are. But this is not an incredibly sophisticated piece of data engineering here, if you ask me. Ooh, nice. Amateur's Arms. I assume that's what we're talking about from Clash of Arms. And about Kevin McPartland design, I believe, if that's the game we're talking about. All right. Yes. So this is true. It's not just the Normandy campaign. I'm not sure when it stops. I think based on the description, it stops when Allies hit the Rhine, which means sometime around the end of 1944. I don't know if it runs into 1945 or not. Ooh, nice. White Bear and Red Moon was one of Chaosium's first publications, actually. It did eventually make its way to Avalon Hill as the game Dragon Pass in what was presumably something connected to the deal that they made for RuneQuest, I guess. Interesting. Roger says that Wave of Terror has no zones of control. That by itself is not that weird. You have to use the historical setup for the Americans. Is there an open setup? Open setups are general. It depends on the game. For some games, an open setup is completely within reason. For like a bulge game, no, that's dumb. This is another situation where I think giving the player complete freedom to do whatever they feel like is going to break the game. And not just break the game, but break the battle. This is also true of Fortress America. Not Fortress America. Fortress Europa. Also true of the Gamers and Multi-Man's The Mighty Endeavor. You have a choice of where you want to invade. So, I'm very curious to see Defiance, by the way. And that is in response, presumably, to Perry's question about a subsequent game about what happens after that particular part of the conflict. How to actually organize the physical games. So I tend to organize. There's a couple of different ways to look at this. I will tell people that I organize by publisher, but that's not really true. What I'm actually doing is organizing by box size. So, for example, there's a top shelf up here in the game room. That's all the Avalon Hill stuff, except the flats. The flats are up here because that's where they fit. So, I believe Mark has spoken highly of Amateurs to Arms in the past. I might be misremembering that, but I don't think so. All right, folks, it is at 10 p.m., so we're going to wrap this up. I will tell you that we have the Chit Show tomorrow with Dan at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and our special guest will be Mr. Harry Rowland from sunny Australia. Hopefully it is sunny in Australia right now. It's winter, so it probably isn't. Hopefully there will be an unboxing video on Thursday. There might also be a couple of shorts this week. So we will see, a video on how to organize your war games in terms of storing all the games is probably not a bad idea. So thank you for that idea, Lee Grant. That's a great idea, and for the support as well. So that's what's on the docket for this week. I don't think I will have a book review this week. I have to write the review for Dead House Gates, and that'll be out on the other new channel whenever that comes up, but I'm not in a big rush to do it, and I'm short on time, and I spent most of the weekend using the new chainsaw to cut pieces of wood up. I moved almost no wood. I cut a lot of wood up, and I'm nowhere near the end of cutting up all the wood. So I guess we did, but I feel like we do every week, so I appreciate the thanks, and thanks for coming by. So like the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. There's a bunch of ways to support the channel in the video description. And I want to say thanks to everybody who comes out week after week after week to help participate in the community. It is because of the folks that come out, not every week necessarily. And there's not like I'm not taking attendance. It does kind of feel like I'm taking attendance, doesn't it? I'm not trying to take attendance, folks. I'm really not doing that. I don't have that kind of time. But I do appreciate people coming out week after week, and that is the reason why this show actually happens. So thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight, and we will be back tomorrow night, and hopefully there'll be some more content coming out, depending on what editing gets done this week. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next week.